Introducing the new Volvo XC90 with 7-seat versatility, Google built-in, and advanced safety features for all your precious cargo. The new Volvo XC90, designed for life. Visit volvocars.com/US to learn more.
On WhatsApp, no one can see or hear your personal messages. Whether it's a voice call, message, or sending a password. To WhatsApp, it's all just this. So whether you're sharing the streaming password in the family chat or trading those late-night voice messages that could basically become a podcast, your personal messages stay between you, your friends, and your family. No one else. Not even us. WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone.
I've always got a lot of my information from podcasts, like a lot of self-help, mental health, health and fitness stuff. So I've wanted to find a way to get back, and I was in treatment again this past. So I'm almost at 6 months again, which is
congratulations.
Which is a miracle. Thank you.
Where'd you go this time?
I went to a place in Aurora for treatment. Yeah. Instead of
Nice.
I went to the States twice before that. And I've since learned that it wasn't because of the quality that they sent me there. It was because I couldn't escape and come back home easier, which is very valid. Because when I went to this last time, I did leave because I was like fed up with all the I don't know. I took my will back, I think, right? It wasn't good enough for me, the treatment center, right?
Well, especially if you've been to some good ones.
It's tough.
The family disease.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks so much, Susan, for coming down. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I was referred your name by a fellow member of recovery, and he mentioned that, I had to have you on, and then you show up here and I'm like, I know you, I've seen you before, which is like, it's an amazing thing about recovery, right?
It is.
You hang out long enough and you start to see some familiar faces, right?
Yes. And there's that sense of community and belonging.
Yeah. It's like, I always say it's, it says in literature that we're like the surviving members of a Titanic, right? We all have that common peril where no matter where I go, I see people that are in recovery, and there's that like, that
so much, it doesn't have to be explained.
Yeah.
It's like you could just, okay.
Yeah, I know what you've been through, even though I don't know anything about you, right?
Yeah.
I know that you've suffered to some degree, and now you have a solution, right? And a way out. I just want to kick off with this before I start letting you introduce yourself, because the show's not about me, even though I like to think that it is. We talking about the camaraderie and the community. I was in Vancouver this past weekend for an international conference. There was a bunch of alcoholics together, 35,000 to be exact. And I'm a little bit emotionally hungover from it because
Absolutely.
It's a lot, right? There's a lot of, there was people there. They did this thing where they took a bunch of names of people that had 50 plus years of sobriety to go up and speak, and they pulled them out of a hat, 12 people. They had said that there was over 200 people there with 50 plus years of sobriety.
That's incredible.
Like, it blew my mind, right? And I feel like there's a point in my sobriety where I would have been pissed at that, and I'm never like, I can't relate to these people, but I was taught in recovery to just listen for the similarities and not the differences. And I can tell you right now, every single person that started talking, I was like, yeah, felt that way. Yep. Did that. Wow. That helped, a lot of them talked. The thing that I got from the conference, if there was, one theme, overarching theme, it was service. That was the thing I kept hearing over and over again, that these guys and girls, these people never stopped working with newcomers and new alcoholics and people struggling. Right. And that was powerful for me because the thing that these conferences can do is they can make you reflect on yourself and like, am I doing this right? Where are the gaps in my program? Because I don't want to go back out there again. Like, I really don't.
It's a mirror. It's a mirror to, and all the people it takes to put on a convention of that size, right?
Yeah, they were all wearing pink shirts. There was like thousands of them. Yeah, they stood out, right? So, I just wanted to share that because it was, if you're listening, there's a lot of people out there that are going through this, all ages, all ethnicities, all religions. And it's a beautiful thing. You know, they've been through, somebody's been through what you've been through, if not worse. I've found, you know, there's somebody has gone through it and battled through it. Right.
Yeah. Experts at all levels.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to talk about this today. You're in recovery yourself, and you've written a book, which I love the cover of. I haven't gotten a chance to dive into it yet because I just got it the other day, but I'm excited to read this. My wife even said to me, she goes, because she always wants, she's like, you need to have more people on that talk about the family, right? Because she still needs help. She's been through a lot, right? She's watched me go through a lot of, she's seen me at my high, you know, in the 7 years that I had of sobriety and recovery. And then she's been through the lows and stuck by me. Right.
Wow.
And she gets a lot out of this. So I'm excited to talk about this, but your book is called What's Wrong with My Teen? And it's about finding answers to teenage addiction and family crisis. I think this is so important. I'm so happy that we're going to talk about this. I'm happy that you wrote this.
I'm excited to be here and talk about it.
Yeah.
And talk with you.
Yeah. So I'm going to shut up now because I really want to hear from you. Why don't you start off with a little bit about your story and what brought you into recovery in the first place?
Sure. Well, my name is Susan Raphael, and today I'm a mental health and addiction clinician in a small private practice in Toronto. And I've been working in this profession for over 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And it came on the back of studying psychology when I was younger. And I always had those questions, trying to understand myself and how I didn't feel like I fit in the world. And academia was an easy place to kind of hide with all my ideas and all my creativity and curiosity. And at the same time, I had the double life where I was going out and I was using chemicals from a pretty young age, like 16, and drinking. And it was all in the facilitation of going out and having fun and dancing. And back up a bit, I had an eating disorder to start with. So that was, ever since I can remember, I was using my body to change the way that I felt, and then using substance to change the way that I felt. So I came into recovery in 99. I had been on Skid Row in the downtown Lower East Side of Vancouver, homeless in shelters for the better part of a year and a half. And I'm so grateful for that system and the policemen that offered help and the policemen that were consequential and handcuffed me and threw me in the back of a paddy wagon and brought me to a shelter one night because they determined I was the problem. And I'm grateful for the services that I had to get me eventually back on my feet. It was family who intervened, and brought me back to Toronto. And I still drank for a couple more years. And drugs were part of my story in and out, really in the facilitation of drinking more. And when I couldn't do drugs anymore, I realized how much of alcohol dependent I was. I started having seizures in and out of hospital, emergency rooms, problems, unemployable, right? And took a lot of hostages and was taken hostage and et cetera, et cetera. So all of the things that we hear about. And I had the opportunity to go to detox and heard about a treatment center. And that time I stayed in detox. I don't know what made that time different, but I stayed. And I learned that I wasn't a bad person. I was a sick person. And with all the psychology and self-knowledge I had, that was really comforting, because I realized I felt like a bad person and I had a lot of shame and guilt and remorse. Like, how did a nice girl like me end up on Skid Row? There was a huge gap from where I started to where I ended up. And I've been thankful to be sober ever since. I've struggled with other things in 26 and a half years, but I had to get the eating disorder in check and learn to have relationships. But I've been grateful to have a program of recovery and be in long-term recovery since then.
That's amazing. Wow.
It really is.
Yeah.
Such a simple solution for such complicated individuals who think we're so unique.
Yeah. Nobody's like me. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody understands
Yeah.
me.
If you didn't go to Skid Row, so you're not like me, right?
Yeah.
You didn't do this, or you know what I mean? There's all these things that separate us. And that's why, looking for the similarities, I was taught was one of the best things to do when I came in. Right?
And following some direction without, having someone take control of my life, but following the direction was helpful. It gave me structure, discipline, purpose, a sense of belonging. And then 6 months later, I started working at the treatment center that I went to in an administrative role. And that happened very serendipitously. And so I started to believe, that there were things that were stronger, more powerful than I was, that were helping to direct me into better choices, healthier choices. And that was a great place to be in early recovery.
Yeah.
And that kind of ignited my interest in being a counselor. I always wanted to be a counselor since I was a little kid. I was the listener. I was the quiet one who was listening and asking questions. And then I was the bartender, and I was listening and asking questions over the bar. So it was a dream come true to start helping people and getting certified and getting all the necessary things in order to counsel and help others.
So what made you choose the family path, dealing with loved ones of addicts instead of sticking with, just the addicts?
Yeah, it's a great question because when I was deciding what I wanted to do in terms of counseling, people would say to me that I had to choose. I had to either be working with the family or working with the, substance use disordered individual. And I liked both. And when I started working with young people, I really liked working with young people. I related to that. I related to being that teenager in crisis because I was a teen in crisis silently. And I started working in an aftercare role and working with these teenagers who had come back from treatment programs. And sometimes young adults too. I use teenager quite loosely since the brain's still developing till we're 25 or so. And so that ignited my passion for working with teens. And working with parents was more challenging for me. Although I was a loved one myself, most of the people I was in relationship with prior to getting into recovery had addiction issues. So I understood what it was like, and I dated some in my early days in recovery and people that relapsed. And so I did family programming for myself. I went to Al-Anon support and sought, that family perspective of we can't control it, we can't cure it, and we didn't cause it, right? It's not our fault because there's so much guilt. So eventually I sort of transitioned into wanting to work with the family piece, and that family system is so important. As you said in the promo yesterday for this podcast, it's a family disease, it's a family disorder, and it's a family recovery too for those that choose it. And really the title of the book, What's Wrong with My Teen, it's a hook because perhaps there's something wrong with everyone. It's not just the teen. And if we're willing to courageously look at our part in things and how we might be part of the system, not necessarily the problem, but a system. And family is a system, and it functions with certain rules, and sometimes they're silent rules. People don't speak about feelings, or people don't talk about what's really going on. So I love a challenge, and working with the parents was more of a challenge for me. And I developed a tremendous amount of compassion and capacity for parents and loved ones, anxiety and guilt and kind of misplaced energy. If they put some of that energy into their own self-care, it would actually be better for them and probably better for their loved one.
Yeah.
That's a difficult shift to help people make.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And well said. And I mean, I'm just grateful that, I'm grateful that I'm able to talk about it. I think that this is so helpful for people because I feel like there's a lot of answers out there for people in addiction and alcoholism. If you choose to go and find them, right? There's a lot of solutions. It's pretty apparent, on the social media, like there's a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
But there's a huge gap between my kid won't, like, he's fucking up my family, right? Like, what do I do, And you mentioned working at a treatment. I recently got a job at a treatment center, and that's something that I recently realized that I wanted to do too. I need to stay close to new people. I need to stay close to recovery. Another reason why I started this podcast, because I don't want to go back out, like I said, right? It's not fun out there. And so, I mean, like, working with I was in Vancouver. I got a message. I get in contact with people to get them in the treatment center. That's my role, right? Is to facilitate that. And I've been getting a lot of parents, talking to a lot of parents,
yes.
right? And so this is very timely for me,
Yeah.
right? I got a super long, text conversation with this mother, and I was going to read it, but it's really long.
I know those.
Yeah,
I'm familiar with those.
And
there's so much coming out.
Like, you don't even know where to start, right? And I'm not trying to solve anything when I'm doing this. I'm realizing that. But she mentioned a lot of what I was going through with her daughter and the psychosis, and I was getting goosebumps as I was reading it, because she was telling me all these things that her daughter was experiencing and seeing, and the paranoia and with crack and cocaine, right? And I was just like, oh my God, like, you just feel for them, right? You feel for them, but you do your best to try and facilitate and get them in, right? That's definitely the hardest thing, is to get that shift for loved ones to kind of work on themselves, right?
Yeah.
How do you approach that? I know that's a really, big question, but today, how do you approach that, I guess?
Well, if you tallied all the calls that helplines and treatment centers got, primarily they're from loved ones. We're trying to help those that we love, and facilitate getting them help. So that says a lot. It says a lot about how important the role of the family member is, because often people do go to treatment because of family love, support, leverage. That
I would say forced, but yeah,
yeah. And so
I was forced. I'll say that.
There you go. There you go.
Time, yeah.
And it's leverage can also be leverage, where it's a loving act to support someone. But there are ways to support. So I meet people where they're at, and usually, the book came from my best practices, what's tried, tested, and true for most people when they come, for most parents and caregivers when they come to me. They struggle with what is actually help and support and what is enabling.
Yep.
And they've had terms thrown at them like they're codependent and they're enablers. And these are not, we're all codependent. So to pathologize something that we all experience, and we all enable different things. I enable my clients sometimes too, right? Like we are, we're softies and we care about people. So really meeting them where they're at and giving them some tangible tools, some things that wherever they're at, they can work on. Enabling is usually a piece of it. Understanding consequences, understanding natural consequences, and letting those happen. And often parents will think that that's very punitive to let a natural consequence happen. For example, little Billy goes to school and he's forgot his homework, and mom or dad or caregiver runs to school and brings his homework. Is Billy learning the lesson about his responsibility for his own homework, right? Like, so it's helping them understand what their role is and how they can create conditions for change and not try to control. They're so used to controlling. There's not a lot of guides out there for teenagers with mental health and addictions. There's a lot of baby raising books. There's a lot of toddler raising books. But mental health and addiction for teens and young adults is an area that, it's something people don't really want to talk about, the struggles they're having with their teens. Parents tend to talk about all the great things their kids are doing.
Right.
We all do. We talk about the great things that are happening. So it's important to meet them where they're at, and then just stay with them on their journey, not lecture them, not reprimand them. They're already feeling so much stress and pressure. There's pressure on parents today like never before, and there's pressure on young people like never before. So understanding that they're where they're at and trying to move them whatever forward looks like for them in their situation.
I think that's, I mean, that was well said. The analogy about, forgetting your homework, like, are you really giving your child life lessons and preparing, right?
Right.
And I understand too that that's a very, small example in this context as well. But as you were talking there, I was just thinking about the fentanyl thing, right? This fentanyl crisis. I want to ask you how that's impacted your work now with teens and parents worrying about, their kids overdosing and dying. And then, like, I don't know that there's an answer to this, but I was kicked out of my house, and that was the only way I went into treatment, right? If that happened, that was 10 years ago, if that happened today, I don't know if my parents, it was hard for them in the first place to do that, right? Because they don't know what's going to happen to me, right? But I mean, like, when it comes to kind of letting go, how do you navigate the my son might die tomorrow thing?
Absolutely. Right? And I want to clarify, were you kicked out of your house, or was your behavior such that it didn't allow you to live in the house?
Yeah, that's a good way to frame it. Yeah.
So
I need perspective shifts like that.
I never tell parents to kick their kid out of the house. However, if little Anthony was living according to little Anthony's rules, I don't know how old you were 10 years ago, but
yeah, 23.
And not according to the house rules, was that fair? Was that, in line with the values of the family system? Or were you somewhat being cushioned from the natural consequences of your illness? Maybe they knew, so it's all, every situation is unique, and where people are at is unique. But there's a lot of steps between kicking someone out and asking of them some simple kind of contributions to a system that are not, so there's parents will go there like, I'm never going to kick my kid out. And it might be years before the consequences help them determine that actually their child is choosing to live under their roof, and they can die under. I've had people die at home as well. Yeah. But in this one pill can kill environment that we are living in today, it is terrifying. And there's no easy answer. Yeah. It's a toxic supply out there, and it's very scary. So parents need to be informed. The awareness needs to be raised. And that's why I wanted my book to be out there, so that people could have the awareness, so that we're having these discussions, so that we're telling them what to look for and what to be really concerned about, and what to, letting go is a whole book in and of itself. Yeah. It's so difficult. Letting go is the hardest thing anybody will ever do. And it's a process. It's not an absolute. It's a daily reminder of what, what's that cost if I don't maintain my own peace and serenity unconditionally.
Yeah. And also too, like, how imposing more rules, forcing, controlling can actually push addicts further away.
Absolutely. Sorry. So looking at influence and how we can influence as opposed to control. I know these are subtle shifts, right? Like addiction and mental health crises are so counterintuitive for loved ones, because when someone's ill, you want to hang on, you want to help, You want to
give them
support,
medication.
you want to do things to soften life for them. Those exact things fuel addictive behaviors, and they fuel mental health challenges too. So it's understanding that kind of continuum with what's safe struggle and what is too much. What am I not going to allow my child to face? Where am I going to be that safety net for them? And where do I have to step back and let them struggle to find a solution?
Yeah. And, a rock bottom too, if you will, right? Like, I believe I had to hit some sort of rock bottom. It was, usually financially, but there was also an emotional thing there where I was just like looking around at the world. And, this last relapse, I came to a point where I felt like such an outcast from society again, but to a very intense degree. I described this in one of my last episodes, but my last bout this time around, hopefully God willing today, I was getting kicked out of a hotel, and I just remember, I remember very vividly sitting in the lobby of the hotel waiting to get kicked out because I couldn't afford it anymore. And, I'd run out of money. Like I said, I had a whole shitload of drugs still on me, but I had no desire to continue on anymore because I was sitting in the lobby of this hotel and watching people just kind of walk by and live their life. Right?
Day people. I used to call them day people.
Yeah, the
when
day
I was
walkers.
using
Yeah. I hated those guys when I came out of after hours clubs. And I was just like, man, like I used to be like that. I used to be just going, like having normal problems and, dealing with normal things. And my life has just become this, like, how do I get to the next drug? How do I get to the next drink? How do I, survive today? Mm-hmm. And so I had to get to that. And so again, I got... How did you frame it again? Instead of getting kicked out, I wasn't living in accordance to the house rules.
Yeah,
I like that.
It was about your behaviors, and that they were actually treating you probably a little bit with kid gloves because nobody else would have been able to live in the house at 23 doing the things you were doing, perhaps.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But possibly, right?
I like that. Yeah, you're right. And so that happened again this time with my wife. We were going to counseling, and she did the same thing, right? Where she politely asked me that you can't live under this roof while doing these behaviors. Right.
So it's a choice.
Yeah.
And words matter. And I have a lot of scripts in my book because choices matter and tone matters. And at the same time, we all make mistakes. So if a parent says something, if anybody says something that's not appropriate, just own it. Sorry, I made a mistake. I messed up.
This is new to me. I don't know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like it is. Like I've never dealt with this before.
There is no manual other than mine now
Yeah.
for doing this stuff. But having some humility that parents don't have to have all the answers, and they they're subtle shifts, but when parents start to get these shifts, I can see it. And they'll come back to a session, and all of a sudden, it's like the penny has dropped, and I'm thinking, What did I say? What did I do? It's like, you have shifted, and we can't explain how, but it's like things are sinking in for them where they start to say no to their child or start to stop financially supporting one aspect. And it doesn't have to be this all or nothing, right? Like just stop supporting one aspect of their lifestyle. You don't have to cut them off. It doesn't have to be this tough love, but frankly, love is firm. Your wife, what she had to do was loving, and it was firm too. It was like, you have a choice. If you want to stay here, you can't be using.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I remember too her thing, because she had some more knowledge about 12-step by this point. Her thing too was like, you need to go to meetings, and you not only do you need to not use here. Right. But to your point, you need to also partake in the recovery community because that's what works for you. And she was right. Like that. I found that that's the only thing that worked for me, therapy. And then this sort of 12-step recovery. I always say this, it's not for everybody. It's not the same thing. I get some flack sometimes, right? But not everyone has a good experience with it, and that's fine, right? There's many paths up the recovery mountain.
There are many paths, always. More so than there were 10 years ago, than there were 26 years ago.
100%.
And there's medications that can assist with the right, facilitation, the right doctors, addiction doctors. And there are many, many tools today that will sort of soften the path to recovery for people.
You mentioned, the scripts in your book, and I love doing this where, I haven't gotten a chance to start reading it yet, but I'm excited to, because as my wife pointed out to me, she's like, this can really help you, and really help you understand your parents and like their perspective. So I truly believe that this is not just for a parent with a teen.
Yeah,
like I think
exactly.
everyone that deals with addiction can benefit from this. And I've already realized that by what I do is I flip open the first page, and that's the page I was meant to read this morning. So I'll read it now, and then I want to hear, your kind of feedback on it. But so I flipped open, and it was consistent and purposeful validation helps to build relationships. You are telling someone that they are important and the relationship with you matters. So to your point, I'm not just kicking someone out, right? Examples, and I love this, examples of validating statements, right? So like things I can actually use in my life, right? 1, this must be difficult for you. I believe in you. Tell me more about blank, ... right? What do you need from me, us right now? I'm proud of you, or you can be proud of yourself. I love you. We know this time period, circumstance is difficult for you. How can we make it easier? We care about you and what is happening to you. It's no wonder you feel this way. A personal favorite of yours.
Yeah,
right? It's no
I love
wonder
that
you
one,
feel
right?
this way. We are sorry for what happened to you, and we are so glad you are here. That might be hard for somebody to hear right now, that the addict in their life is screwing up, the family dynamic, whatever. You're doing this to me, like you can feel very victimized, right? When your son or daughter or loved one is using. So I've completely taken it out of context. So do you want to add some context to that? Like when do we start to kind of start doing these validating statements? And
Anytime. We're all great at pointing out the things that aren't going well, and it's human nature. We tend to say 10 negatives before we say a positive. So being mindful that validating is important for the developing mind of a teenager. The love language is words of affirmation. They want their parents to support them. Yet, so parents struggle with validating because they feel that it's condoning behavior. So, and give an example. It's, maybe a kid comes home with a report card, and maybe they've passed some courses, maybe they've failed some. So rather than just saying, you failed, what's wrong with you? To balance it with, I see there's some positives here and there's some room for improvement. Do you want to talk about it, right? I'm never good at these on-the-spot examples, but there's always a place for validating statements. And if you can't validate, then take a step back. Then deal with the feelings that are getting in the way of that. Like if you're feeling angry and resentful or harmed, that maybe your teenager has stayed out all night again, and you're frustrated and you're in all that. So that's a time to go to a meeting or call Susan or call Anthony and have someone to chat with and to de-escalate and to tend to your own feelings so that you can come back to a place of compassion where you can validate. And then the bit about condoning, like you can say, I understand why you might be smoking weed because all your friends are. I really get that. This is a time where a lot of young people your age are doing such things, and it's not allowed in this house. So how are we going to deal with that? So you can validate, you can support, you can understand without condoning a behavior. So they're really operating in two different realms, but parents can confuse that and think that if I say, oh yeah, all your friends are smoking weed, that somehow that's giving you permission to go and smoke weed, or that I'm desensitizing you to it. Or they'll say, just don't hang around with those friends, because I know they want to think that it's always the other peers. We all do. We want to think that there's some other influence, that it's not So does that make sense? Like
yeah,
the
because
validating
I didn't raise you this way, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
this isn't the person, the man, woman, girl, whatever I raised you to be. So it must be everybody else,
Yeah.
right? That actually
definitely.
that leads me into my next question, because my parents, I think, went through a bit of this too, is the denial, right? The denial of my son can't be smoking meth.
Yeah.
Like there's no way he's, snorting coke. We didn't raise him. No one in the family, like, what? How did this even happen? None of his friends even do it. How did he get into this? Do you deal with a lot of denial, and how do you approach that with parents?
Yes, lots of denial, and lots of parents come in feeling a lot of guilt and responsibility for behaviors that really don't have anything to do with them per se. So we know that addiction is a biopsychosocial condition, mental health issues. Similarly, drugs and alcohol can exacerbate mental health symptoms. Parents also, and I talk about this in my book, will come from the perspective that it's mental health and it's not an addiction. Somehow in their frame of mind, addiction is, and we know it has a lot more stigma and is not as accepted as perhaps having a mental health issue. So, parents come in with a lot of denial, and yet I'll just validate that they're there. You're here. I got a call from a referent this week, someone who had seen me perhaps a couple of years ago. They came to see you a couple of years ago. Okay, so they're back.
Wow.
Great.
Wow.
Good for them. What's changed in the couple of years? Like, would have been great if they had stayed. They didn't. That's okay. They're here now. Just like I didn't get sober the very first time I went to detox.
Yeah.
Sadly, there were multiple visits. So there's a lot of denial. There's a lot of rationalizing that he's using or she's using because of their anxiety. And while that may be the case, now we have two problems, because we've got substance-induced anxiety plus whatever anxiety was there before. So it doesn't really matter how we got to where we're at today. From today on, we're going to start on a path of a new solution, a new plan. And but I'll listen to all of that. I'll listen to how they feel. It's not their child, that it's the peer group. I'll help them understand how to kind of balance that out a bit without, calling them out. I'm very gentle.
Yeah. And I'm sure as you start to get to know clients like my therapist,
Yeah.
you start to call them out, and
Yeah.
mine doesn't leave, Polly's the best. She doesn't leave anything on the table.
No stone unturned.
She'll call me on.
This episode is brought to you by Liquid IV. When you hydrate with Liquid IV, you're powered by Hydroscience. Hydroscience is Liquid IV's science-backed formula with an optimized ratio of electrolytes, vitamins, and nutrients. Experience great-tasting hydration for mental clarity, physical endurance, and overall well-being. Sip into something that up-levels every moment. Liquid IV. Tear, pour, live more. Visit us at liquidiv.com.
Make your next vacation unforgettable. On Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Star of the Seas, it's everything you've loved about every family vacation you've ever been on, with mind-blowing thrills at the largest water park at sea, 7 onboard pools for every level of chill, more than 40 ways to dine and drink, and even more to enjoy at our award-winning private island, Perfect Day at Coco Cay. This is the new Star of the Seas. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
Some of them might even be tossed.
yeah, tossed them, exactly.
Usually people come to their own understanding, and I kind of just help get them there. And it's not like I have some, amazing ability to understand. I just I've heard it before. Their exit strategy might be slightly different, but I've generally heard their concern, and that's why it was helpful to write what I wrote, because I knew where parents get stuck, and I know where I get stuck as a loved one. I'm still in it too. It's
like you said, it's a daily
reprieve,
right? It's a daily maintenance. where do you see people getting stuck the most, would you say? Like, what's the common place that people just can't get over?
Sometimes it's enabling versus supporting.
Yeah.
And commonly it is letting go. I mean, I tend to not even say letting go until we're well into our relationship, because it sounds kind of wooey.
Yeah.
But I will teach them how to let go. We come at it through the back door.
Right.
I'll teach them how to stand up for themselves, which is also letting go, how to put their own peace of mind first, how to do their own work, so that they're modeling that to their children, which is super beneficial. If you're listening to this and you're going to therapy, or you're going to Al-Anon, or you're going to Families for Addiction Recovery, or you're going to Hope, which is another parent support, they're amazing. And I'm happy to provide resources.
Yeah, I'm going to link those. I've never heard of them. I'm going to link those in the show notes.
And Sunnybrook Family Navigation Project is a wonderful resource for families. And most of them have generated out of parents and loved ones who have created services, because they realized there was such a gap in the system. But if you're, I lost my train of thought there, but if you're going to those like that, you need to be doing that for yourself. And working, and that's the toughest shift, I think, for. And again, it doesn't have to be this. Your adolescent's brain isn't developed, so they're thinking very much in black and white. I would encourage parents and caregivers to think in the gray area. You're not kicking them out. Maybe you're setting a curfew. See where it goes. Try it for a month or two. Try it for a week or two. Maybe it crashes and burns, but you're not kicking them out. You're just inching towards a little bit more of a guideline that you can live with, because you've got to put your head on the pillow at the end of the day, right? Parents are working hard.
Yeah. And if I've learned anything, that's not happening at all, right? When you're not getting any sleep.
Sometimes, so often, parents are not getting a good night's sleep because they're so worried, and the pressure, or maybe their child is on the streets or couch surfing or whatever, and they're still not getting a good night's sleep. So to put some energy into getting support for themselves, so that they can have a broader capacity to deal with the crisis that they're still in.
Yeah. Does that happen a lot? Do you find that clients come in and they're like, I don't even know where my kid is, right? Like, where do you go from that point? Because I had a parent reach out to me who was like, I haven't seen my kid in 4 years. Like, he's like in his 20s, and what do I do? Like, what do I do? Right? Is there like systems set up to deal with that? I don't know if you know the answer to that, or maybe just you can talk about your experience with that.
A lot of times, parents will want to cut off a cell phone, for example, if that's something they're providing, and I always think it's helpful for people to have a way to connect, and if you're in that early stage of crisis, to tell your loved one that, look, I'm always going to respond to your communications. It might not be in the middle of the night, because I put my sleep first, but I will always be there for you at a level that honors my own peace of mind and serenity. So to have some of these, I'll always be here for you. And it might be, I might have to take a step back because I love you too much to keep on messing up, or whatever the case is, but to maintain connection at a level that you can live with. It doesn't mean you're enabling. It doesn't mean you're fueling behaviors that are not healthy. It means you're staying connected at any cost. So for someone who's not connected with their child, that's terribly scary. Yeah. They usually do show up or surface if it's a temporary kind of thing. If it's a matter of years, there's a lot of grief and loss work there to be done. There's a lot of how are you doing with that? How are you okay if you don't know where your child is?
I mean, this woman had, she was in a place of acceptance, I think, because she was very calm. Like I could just kind of feel it in her tone. And there was some work she was telling me she was seeing a therapist. So there was definitely some work done there. And I think that she probably had come a long way, because I don't imagine that to be easy at all. Right. Someone comes into, to see you, or, reaches out to you, is dealing with a loved one of an addict and doesn't know what to do. Where do they start? Where do you start people on this journey? Like, what's step one, really?
What is their goal? What do they want? Are they invested in getting their loved one into treatment? I'll ask them what the behaviors and symptoms, and my book outlines that they're dealing with on a daily basis are. Maybe it's phone calls in the middle of the night. Maybe their loved one's living with them and they're dealing with verbal abuse or other behavior that they're struggling with.
So what to look for, first of all, to see
where they're at with kind of the day-to-day, what the parent or loved one is dealing with, and kind of take stock of that. And then where are the levers of influence? So if they're struggling and their young person has the keys to the car and the parents are insuring the car, well, there's a lever of influence. Are the parents comfortable being completely liable in a case where a young person might be substance involved or have mental health issues that would result in an accident? Am I okay?
Yeah, no, you're good. Sorry. I do that a lot.
So where are the levers of influence? And most will say, I couldn't possibly do that. They're using the car to go to their job. Okay. All right. So, does it concern you that you're liable for that? And where are you prepared to make a change? And start with kind of the lowest hanging fruit.
Right.
We're not going to kick out right away, but maybe, they've got enough money to be drinking and using. Maybe they could contribute to the household, either through some monetary, or maybe they could contribute to their cell phone bill. Maybe there's some more skin in the game they can have to show some responsibility. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like to kind of have those, where are the levers of influence? Because family have much more leverage than they are in touch with. By the time they come and reach out for help, they're feeling very powerless. They're feeling like they have zero control. And in a sense, they do. They don't have control over their young person, but they do have control over some things. So it's like lining them up with what they have control. They don't have control over the disease of addiction or mental health. They definitely don't have control over that. What do they have control over? Okay, are they funding it? Are they giving money? Are they supporting driver's insurance? Or
providing a place to use the drugs and alcohol?
Yeah. So where are they prepared to maybe, and just pointing those things out will give them a sense, even if they're not ready. And again, I'm not telling them this is what they need to do. We're establishing where they feel like they have a little bit of influence. And the loving relationship is a big one. It's bigger than parents acknowledge. Their children want a connection with the parents. They don't really want to be pissing them off and harming them and causing. In fact, that can fuel a lot of the guilt, shame, and remorse in a loved one's, in the young person's life. So, having that, kind of taking stock and having those tough inventories of where am I supporting recovery and where am I, and people can always start doing something for themselves, going to a low barrier support group where it doesn't cost a lot of money. But they can go online even, or listen to a podcast. There's great podcasts out there. And yours is one of them.
Thanks.
To get some support and on their own terms.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you. I think I'm going to have you back on because we're going to have to wrap it up here, but I could go on forever about this. Let's close with this because I always close my podcast with this, but if you could say something to the struggling mom, dad, loved one of an addict right now, what would you say?
I would say there is a solution, and you're looking at 2 solutions here. And, I've worked with young people that have been in my life for a long time. And maybe they've come in and out of abstinence, but there's so much more to recovery than abstinence. And I love that I've been able to introduce them to a solution that they've come back to and may take with them for the rest of their life in a way that suits them. So recovery is possible, and there's always hope.
Always. Yeah. Thanks so much, Susan. Your book's on Amazon. Where else is it available?
It's available everywhere books are sold, and if it's not, ask for it, please.
Yeah.
And you can ask for it at your library. It's got an ebook available.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, and it's even on sale because it's Amazon Prime Days.
Love it.
today.
Oh yeah, good call. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Thanks so much
But
for
if
coming
you want to
down.
buy Canadian, it's at Indigo
Oh, there you
and
go.
Book
Yeah.
City if you ask for it.
Yeah.
And
I love it. I'm looking forward to reading this, and I think we need to continue this conversation on not just on this podcast, but like out in the world, right? Because a lot of people
Absolutely.
need to hear this
Yeah.
message.
it's
So,
about raising awareness and having the tough conversations and learning new tools, new
Yeah.
ways to cope.
yeah, and there is a solution. Yeah,
Thanks very much for having me. I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed this.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. Please help us grow the channel and like, share, and subscribe for more content. The discussions and stories shared on this podcast are for informational and motivational purposes only. This content is not a substitute for professional medical advice, addiction treatment, or therapy. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please consult a licensed physician, addiction specialist, or mental health professional. You are no longer alone.